felt. The history of the world is introduced to us with great dates and accomplishments, but it all started small. Our ancestors survived millions of years of evolution, in which process they mastered hunting, farming, and gathering, and invented new tools of trade. Wood and stone, bone and animal skin, felt, clay, iron, and gold are all natural materials that have changed the course of civilization and events in Kazakhstan. Despite the vast variety of natural materials, man constantly invents new ones, the properties of which are sometimes simply incredible. Thanks to the use of technology, hundreds of thousands of artificial materials have come into being, from nylon and latex to carbon nanotubes. They are made of both very thin and fairly dense and durable fabrics that are used in sewing of bed linens, casual, and sportwear. Raincoats and jackets, dresses, blouses, shirts, faux fur and shoes, umbrellas and bags are all made of artificial materials. Synthetic fabrics have excellent functional characteristics. Fabrics are notable for their variety and lightness. They can be shiny, smooth, lusterless, or coarse. But it is unlikely that humans will be able to give up the natural raw materials that people have been using for many millennia. For example, felt and fur. Why? That is what we are going to try to figure out today in our program. Felt. Wool is made from the hair of an animal. The beginning of felt's history goes back to the 5th or 6th millennium BC. The invention of felt occurred much later than weaving. Felting is a production of non-woven fabrics made of wool of sheep, camels, and goats. The wool of a wild sheep is not felted. Therefore, it was necessary to breed domestic sheep breeds. The amount of wool which can be obtained from one sheep is relatively small, 3 to 5 kilograms, while, for example, covering a yurt requires 100 kilograms of wool. The maximum temperature that technical felt can withstand is about 200 degrees Celsius. Felt is not only used to manufacture clothing, but also in industrial construction, as thermal and soundproofing. Felt does not only have advantages. The main problem of thin felt is stretchability, the high permanent set, and the development of rolled balls on its surface. All you need for the manufacturing of felt is human hands, sheep wool, and water. But it is difficult for a man of today to imagine how much labor and effort must be invested to make even a small felt canvas. The know-how, skills, and secrets of felting have been accumulated over the centuries. Since ancient times, women have protected their skills and tried to pass it on to their daughters and granddaughters. Such training was long-term, and not everyone succeeded right away. This meticulous work required concentration, diligence, and artistic taste. Gentle female hands were able to quickly and deftly select high-quality wool, but it was hard work. Fingers pricked thorns and sharp stalks of the plant. They could be bitten by insects entangled in the fur. Felting was highly valued by the people. High-quality felt products were well paid for. Often craftswomen were very sought after by suitors. Girls were taught felting from early childhood, and every year they performed more and more difficult and delicate work. Felt has come a long way from ancient times to the present day. few thousand years ago, the Turkic world of the steppe was introduced to the production of felting. Archaeological materials served as one of the main sources of information when learning this type of craft. The excavation of the famous group of the Tsar's kurgans became one evidence of the mastering by man of the work with felt and felt applique work throughout the 6th to the 3rd centuries BC. However, it was not the first material that primitive people began to use. In those prehistoric times, clothing was first made by leaves of a plant and then by animal fur. Scientists believe that the use of skin began after climate change, during the time of global cooling, which occurred in the 3rd millennia BC. Possibly the hunters began to skin animals to use it as camouflage, to stalk animal herds, and also to lure them to the hiding place. Primitive people first removed hair from animal skins. Inside the fur, animal parasites, insects, and their larvae could develop. Over time, people learned to skillfully process fur. It became a symbol of wealth and status. Despite the millennial cultural differences, we still have a lot in common with these ancient ancestors. Today, elements of the primitive clothing styles can be found in fashion collections of the most famous and expensive brands. Felt in the section represents a mass that is so uniform and compact that it would be difficult to distinguish individual hairs in it, and it would be easier to tear the most durable fabric than felt. On one hand, such a strong bond depends on the bends inherent in hair, and on the other hand, on the location of the microscopic scales and notches on its surface. When fulfilling wool, curls of some hair catch on the curls of others, and notches on some enter into the hollows of the other. These two types of a bond determine the two main qualities of the felt, its elasticity and strength. The waviness of the hair determines its elasticity, while the coarseness makes it strong. If you burn this natural material, it is difficult to ignite. It doesn't burn, but smothers. This property was extremely useful. After all, people made fires not only next to felt yurts, but also inside their dwellings. Also, soaked clothing made of felt was dried over the fire. Another characteristic of felt is that it absorbs water very quickly, but it also evaporates quickly. The material has got heat-saving properties as well. Wool is breathable. That is because the fibers have a shape of a spiral, which ensures free air circulation. The wearer will never overheat in wool clothing, and it will never freeze in cold weather. Felt is usually made as sheets, with different thicknesses, depending on the designation. The thinnest felt was used in making clothing, hats, and the thickest felt was used in making carpets and yurt covers. Until quite recently, the complex production of felt was performed manually. At the beginning of the 20th century, industrial methods of felting came into being. The mechanized method eased this time-consuming process greatly. There is a huge number of felt factories and plants around the world. Felt made there is used in various areas of industry and for domestic needs. Sophisticated equipment allows us to make high-quality wool and felt in large quantities. Every year the production process becomes more and more advanced. New technologies are being developed, making it possible to expand the range of products. The process is based on the same principles that are used in manual production. Initially, woolen fibers are loosened, and then lubricated and mixed. This is how cotton is obtained. During the process, the layers are laid one on another, thus forming a semi-finished product. This base is then compacted, impregnated with acidic or alkali solutions. The prepared products are decreased in size and filled to the required size and density on the felting machines. During processing, this semi-finished product is then stretched out, flattening it on special stretching devices. The felt is then polished and separated from the villi, pressed and cut out. This is how felt is made commercially. Health is the person's first wealth, and the second wealth is a good wife. Sheep are the third wealth, and these are many, conventional wisdom says. In the Kazakh auls, people primarily bred flocks of sheep, herds of horses, and herds of camels, but sheep came first. Their meat provided food, and their wool was used to make felt. The steppe sheep are amazing animals. They are noted for their endurance, are not fastidious, and resilient to adverse climatic conditions. Of many products derived from these animals, wool is certainly of particular importance. Valuable wool is also provided by camels, which live in the arid regions of Kazakhstan. Wool is a derivative of skin. The quality of wool depends on the properties of the skin of the animal. The fibers grow in their lower root parts as if pushed to the upper, older ones. Depending on the hair follicle structure, hairs can be straight, wavy, or curled. Its designation depends on the length of the wool. Long wool is used to make smooth fabrics, while short wool has a large number of curls that is used to make cloth. Other physical properties of wool are strength, extensibility, flexibility, gloss, and color. On different parts of the animal's body, wool varies in terms of length, thickness, crimp, and some other properties. Wool that is the thickest and best in quality grows on the shoulder blades and sides. Wool that is somewhat thinner and coarse is found on the back, and especially on the withers. The thinner and shorter wool grows on the bottom of the shoulders. From an adult ram, 40 to 60% more wool is usually trimmed than from a sheep, and ram wool is coarser and longer than that of females. The amount of wool shorn and its length varies with age. The thinner the coat is, the thinner and longer the thread that can be spun from it. Camels also provide high-quality wool, from which the best grades of knitwear are made. This wool in which the underwool prevails is valued higher than sheep wool on the world market. Camel wool is heterogeneous and consists of down fur and overhair. There is no dead hair in camel wool. It surpasses all types of sheep wool in terms of its fiber strength. Wool is very light and exceptionally warm. It is 2 times lighter than sheep's wool, and moreover it is much stronger. Camel down wool has a healing thermal effect. Not everyone knows that the astronaut suits and clothing of polar explorers are lined with camel wool. Cloth made of wool from this animal protects not only from hypothermia in the cold season, but also from overheating in the heat. Sheep do not die from single bites of poisonous spiders and insects, and can sometimes use them for food. Therefore, there is a belief that the specific smell of sheep's wool or felt can scare off unwanted guests. Perhaps this was another reason why people used felt to cover and to warm up their yurts. Felt is directly associated with the yurt. And indeed, most of the yurt is made of a felt cover. The yurt is ideally suited for nomadic lifestyle. Quickly built, one can live in it all year round, as it is resistant to wind and frost. In the summer heat, it is cool inside, while in the cold, the fire of the hearth heats the room evenly. It not only serves as a dwelling, but also as the most beautiful example of diligence, talent, and the intelligence of our ancestors. A yurt is easily assembled and disassembled. For the winter, yurts were insulated. They were covered with double felts, covered with snow, and decorated with sheaves of reeds. The walls of the yurt were decorated with felt. The yurt is strictly oriented in the cardinal directions, with the entrance facing the east, which is an ancient tradition of the Turkic people. Felt warmed and decorated the yurt, not only outside, but also lined it from inside. In any case, it is apparent that the nomad's yurt is a product of long-term development and gradual improvement. This construction, with a creatively different architectural concept, with complex semantic meanings, sums up the level of cultural development of the Turkic tribes. When going for a visit, the Kazakhs carefully prepared and chose gifts and put on the festival clothes. It was not easy to welcome a guest. It was necessary to observe all the rituals related to the meeting, providing food and seeing off the guest. The hosts tried to meet the guest in person, and putting on a smart dressing gown, rode or went out to the road. When they met, they embraced and exchanged warm greetings. It was not always possible for a guest to warn about their visit, and often they arrived unexpectedly. But in every Kazakh house, they were ready for them. Guests were seated in the honorary corner of the yurt, in the order of seniority, and were treated to everything that the hosts had. They were generous with time, treats, and gifts for their guests. Even if hosts did not know their guests, they still welcomed them with due respect. The round shape of the yurt, like the hearth itself, symbolized life and health. The hosts tried to make sure that a guest crossed the threshold of the house with a good heart to bless the host's hearth. From ancient times, Oxicals have said that the gratitude of a guest is more precious than their golden gift. They seated a guest in the most beautiful felt carpet, laying soft pillows next to them. For them, they cooked the most delicious dishes, served them the best hummus and fragrant tea. Usually, hospitable hosts heard compliments from their guests and even heard songs from some of their guests praising their home and family. Men would pick up their dombras and hit the gut strings. Akans composed kuis and songs about the hospitality of the Kazakh people and their cordiality and kindness to any traveler. Perhaps each one of us in our childhood have built huts and houses. How much fun it was to build our own dwellings. In the fascinating and very exciting life of children, they build miniature copies of real Kazakh yurts. A separate structure will require some skills, a certain amount of time and imagination. It is necessary to assemble a yurt using real small wooden parts, the frame of which is covered with felt from the inside and the top. Building a small yurt with your own hands is not only fun and exciting entertainment, but also a holistic development, the opportunity to learn more about the many facets of Kazakh life. felt. In the world of wool production, the structure is the share of thin wool at 40 to 45%, half-bred wool at 25 to 30%, medium fineness and coarse wool is at 30 to 35%. Grease wool is the main type of exported wool in the world. Grease wool is exported by 76 countries of the 220 countries of the world. Asian countries have been the main importers of clean wool for more than 50 years. Australia and New Zealand are first in terms of the quantity and quality of the wool produced. On average, the amount of wool shorn per sheep in the world is 1.29 kilograms. The highest amount of shorn clean wool was recorded in New Zealand and was almost 5 kilograms. Since felting is one of the oldest crafts known to humanity, it is no surprise that ornamental arts and craftsmen are attracted by the opportunity to combine felt with modern art. Having revived this new conditions, artistic works with their natural materials contribute to the emergence of new images and plots. Felt provides great opportunities for creativity. Craftsmen use multicolored woolen fibers as a palette, using them as paints, and get exquisite and vibrant colors out of them. You can use a variety of fibers, combining different methods of felting in one article, and combine various materials with felt. A colorific effect and a very beautiful combination is obtained when felt is combined with silk. Felting comes a long way from making everyday necessities, garments, hats, and footwear, to modern objects of art, designer clothing, pictures, and accessories. Previously, felt products were necessary for people to survive the harsh conditions of the steppe life. But now this material has become a trendsetter. The art of felt is now experiencing its rebirth. A tall and slender skyward trunk, a beautiful spreading crown. From ancient times, trees have been a faithful helper to man. For millennia, it warmed and sheltered from enemies, and served to build a dwelling. Wood processing is one of the most ancient branches of industries. It originated in the ancient Stone Age, with the advent of the first slashing and cutting weapons. What kind of wooden items were found in the territory of Kazakhstan on the Saki burial mounds? How did our ancient ancestors process wood, and what did it mean to the life of a nomad? What are the secrets that were kept by the ancient mahogany workers? All these questions and more can be found in the next program devoted to this natural material, wood.